How about the Holy Spirit taking us to another level? The manifestation of the sons of God, people who are truly overcoming, where you're walking in the Spirit. You have the choice to do wrong, but with the power of God, you want to do what's right and you succeed. Now, what am I talking about? A level of Christianity that is here when you have the majority of Christianity in a state of unbelief down here with everyone the doctrine. I'd like to make this simpler yet. Well, you can say the simplest thing is the cross. Yes, but there's another side to the cross people don't hardly like to talk about. If they do, so many times it's wackos that take this to all kinds of crazy places. What I'm talking about is what is behind the door. Now, I've been behind the door. The things that I've seen, I can't tell you about because you couldn't receive it. It's not time. But I have to take you there to a point to try to prepare you for what's coming. Now, we can handle it now and get things all under control where when the bad thing happens, we're not going to have to be judged by it. We'll be taken out of the way. And that's very clearly taught in Revelation chapter 2 and chapter 3 to the church. To those that overcome, they will not be put in to the hour of tribulation. They're not going to be put into the hour of tribulation, figurative speech. They're not going to be judged for not having their act together because they will have their act together. What am I talking about? Okay, let's make Christianity as simple as possible. If we can grasp it at its simplest way, it will give us, at the same time, the most power. Power to understand what's going on, power to succeed. Jesus wants you to be more than a conqueror. Okay, we'll go right down to the simplest thing. Jesus comes to earth. He's the Messiah to the Jews. They reject him. So, and it was in his plan all along, he's turning to the Gentiles to bring them in, the ones that will overcome. And then the Jews will have the veil lifted from their eyes during the 7 years of tribulation, and they will join in with the Gentiles. And we'll all be God's people. So we have spiritually became Jews in the sense that we have the Messiah. Even though we're not Jews, we're Gentiles from Gentile nations. We have no relationship with Judaism. We're not under the laws of the nation of Israel. We don't have nothing like that. We can't have access to it. We're not Israelites. This is what the law keepers don't understand. So we've been given grace by Jesus, and here's the big deal. He comes to set the captives free. Okay, people are slaves to sin. He died on the cross. His holy blood cleanses us, washes us. He takes all our sin away. He dresses us in white. We are simply forgiven from every sinful thing we've done since our youth when we became into the age of accountability. Sin is an action you're judged for. It's not something that's passed on from person to person like some sort of magic. It's not that. Sin is an action. Well, how do you know what it is without the law? Well, the Jews have the law, and it punishes them, but they never succeed in keeping it. That's why the Messiah came. Now, Jesus gives us grace. And the precepts, I'm going to use the word precepts, the points of morality of law are written on our heart. What that means in poetic speech is the Holy Spirit is simply going to communicate with us. And as we walk in the Spirit, we're not anywhere near rebelling against God or committing sin. We're totally set free. We could sin. We can be tempted. But the Holy Spirit will help us put the shield of faith out there and the whole armor of God on. And this is the big deal. So now, the majority of the church, because of a spiritual impurity, they become very, very upset if you talk to them about this. They want to be a Christian, but they don't have the Holy Spirit, and they continue wrestling in the flesh, which is, that whole term's not even in the Bible. I mean, Paul says the things he don't want to do, he does, and the things he shouldn't do, what I'm trying to get at is, when we're in the Spirit, we're not part of the law, we're following Jesus, we're walking Christ-like, and you stop sinning. So where am I going with this? We're going to make it even simpler yet. Now, the simplicity of the cross is our salvation. But we have to understand what motivates sin. Your body, your flesh, has lustful things that maybe you want things. And I want a brand new car. My neighbor has a car. I don't care if I have to cheat on somebody in a business deal to get the money to buy the car. See, that's kind of like lust. And it can go in many different ways, you know. But here's the point. We have another component, and that's what's behind the door. I use that because people can't see it. The effects are there. And then they all wonder and ponder. And some people say, oh, this is the effect of the power of darkness making this person do this or coercing them. But other people say, nah, I don't believe in none of that. That's superstition. Here's where it's going to get really interesting, where science meets the spirituality of a true believer. It becomes really interesting. I'm going to make a couple different videos on this because this answers the question. Why is there every wind of doctrine? How are we going to know if we're following the correct doctrine? Well, we have the Holy Spirit teach us. But a lot of them people will tell you the same thing. When you go to the cross and you look at sin being taken away, the ability to overcome and walk holy, that really separates everything in a real easy to understand way. And that's what I've done in these videos. But I want to talk now about what's behind the door. The motivation of the enemy and how the enemy really gets next to a person and convinces them, tempts them into doing things wrong. And I'm going to make several videos on this and go into greater detail and how you avoid it, how you handle it, how you really overcome the power of darkness. I'm the nuts and bolts. The best way to handle it is in the simplest way. Now, I'm going to start something right off the bat. I'm going to tell you one absolutely unbendable truth. Now, you don't have to take my word for it, but when the time comes, if you do what I say, you'll survive. If you don't, you won't. And this is, you can say this is a prophetic warning to you. The truth's already been spelled out, but people can't see it. So I'm warning you. If you have a experience where it's no longer people picking on you or things not working right in your life or temptation gets control of you and you can't stop doing something, all of those things we kind of know about. But what's happening behind the door in the darkness that causes this to happen? I'm going to go into this in a deeper way. Maybe not telling you some of the things that I've seen that I'm not supposed to say, but telling you how it works in the very basic beginnings. A lot of people don't understand this. The power of darkness is more powerful than anything on earth. It's controlled by a fallen angel named Lucifer. Why is it the most powerful thing on earth? More powerful than anything? Because in God's hierarchy, we have God at the top. That's one divine spirit. It's God manifest in three ways: Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That's the Godhead. It's at the top. Right under him in the pecking order of power is Lucifer. He's got more power than anything else in the universe. And he knew it. And he rebelled against God. It was still part of God's plan that this all happens, because he's got a better thing coming with us, because we are made in God's image. Lucifer wasn't. He's a created being. We're made in the image of God. It's different. We have the image of God. Angels don't. So don't listen to these people that say angels breed among each other and have babies, or they breed with people. That's all occult, Gnostic teaching. And it's all over Christianity right now. It's absurd. But let me tell you how you know. How do you know which one of these doctrines is right? How do you know you're on the right track? Now, I know because I've lived through it and experienced it. Behind the door is the power of darkness. Lucifer has, I don't know how many fallen angels, a third. He has an army. You can call them devils. They hate that. They hate that more than any word. I'm not quite sure why, but they will really go off on that word. Demons, demonic entities, ghosts. I mean, there's all kinds of words. But they're all in a hierarchy of power, and they are out to get people. They don't like people because people are made in the image of God. Okay? Now, we have good angels that come and help us. They don't mind us being made in the image of God. But Lucifer, the second in power, and his army, they hate it that people are made in the image of God. That's why I'm talking about what's behind the door. They have an absolute hatred of newborn babies, because newborn babies are born innocent. Oh, you Catholics and you Protestants that say babies are born sinful with inherited sin from Adam in them. Oh, you don't know Jesus. You don't know. He created all things. All things are created by Jesus. They're created by him and for him, and he does not create babies sinful. They're made in the image of God. Every Jew that was ever born 6,000 years knows this. And we're talking about the power of darkness now. The power of darkness brings all the false doctrine in. All of this stuff. And I'm going to explain nuts and bolts in the next few videos how it works. I'm going to bring it into us the way a scientist would explain it. In physiology, I'm going to show you something that's really interesting. Now, bottom line, there is nothing more powerful than the power of darkness except Jesus. Now, they want to say this, and they want to say this, and they want to follow all of these different doctrines, all of these different philosophies. They're all vain. When it comes to push against shove, if you have Jesus, you will survive. But you've never really been put in the position of having to face something so horrible that you're not going to survive. And then you have the choice very quickly to make. What is it going to take for me to survive? Jesus. And when you do and you survive and the Holy Spirit moves in you, you're going to be on the right track. Because if you ain't, you're not going to make it. Let me go and start another video and show you how the darkness influences a person's thoughts. How does it really work? Let's go into it in the next video. God bless.